Okay.
Action.
So our letter was Penelope to Ulysses, which was book 1 of Ovid's Heroides. And we're going to just explain a few points we brought up in the discussion pertaining to the questions. And the first thing was the does Ovid retell the myths accurately according to the reconstructed narrative, or does he distort? So we felt that he did stick to the myth accurately from the Greek myth, but he also distorted the myth, possibly because of his link to feminism and his link to the times of the Roman times. And we have some examples of how he changed the myth and into his own representation of the story. So a couple examples that we have.
Well, one myth that got distorted, or one part of the story that got distorted, had to do with Telemachus' journey to search for his father. It said that Penelope sent Telemachus herself, but in Homer's version, Telemachus went on his own in search for his father and got the news from Nestor that his father was dead. So Telemachus returns to Penelope with this news, but it's completely different in Homer's version, since Penelope wasn't the one who sent Telemachus.
And do we have another, the Laertes? Don't we have Laertes too?
That wasn't for
That wasn't for that.
Oh, okay.
I mean, another way it was distorted as Penelope goes is as far as like Homer explains that in his version, she's not really like, you know, talking any yank about Ulysses. She's pretty much kind of like just keeping her mouth shut, where in this, she's like pouring it all out there.
I think from, like, I saw a movie, the Odyssey, and I think it kind of goes according to the letter. I didn't really see much different, like I didn't see any difference compared to the movie, so I think the poem does agree, like, it goes along with that.
Okay. Now, the second question is, does Ovid appear genuinely sympathetic specifically to the woman's point of view at all times? And is he a feminist writer? And well, I would just like to talk about this. The reason why I like this story so much is because the bond that Penelope and Ulysses have is like this, one of the strongest bonds out of the story, where most of these stories were just like tragic, really, you know, crazy. But Penelope writes to Ulysses, and Penelope is always, the suitors are constantly trying to get at her, and she is always blocking them. So she's always reminded her of her love, and this is why she's infatuated with the love of Ulysses, because she doesn't want to break that bond. Ulysses, on the other hand, is the most physically on the extra world. He's so physically strong. He's like the strongest, one of the strongest warriors there is, and he goes and conquers and away for 20 years. And when he returns, he steps to Penelope, and he's hidden himself and as a suitor, and she says, "Oh, you're not Ulysses," but then she makes him with the arrow. She has this golden arrow, and she makes him shoot this golden, was it like a golden armor, and he shoots through the golden armor. She still doesn't believe him. Then he walks into the bedroom. He's like, "I built this bed. This is my bed." She's like, "No, I don't believe you." And she's like, "Oh yeah, well, this post here, this is an olive tree that goes into the ground. There's one post, and you can't move this bed." And because the olive tree is rooted into the ground, and then she's like, "Okay, it is Ulysses. I love you, Ulysses." And the reason why I think that he is a feminist writer, that we agreed, is because there's an egalitarian distribution of through the characters, where he is the strong man on the external world, and she is this extremely strong woman who's processing internally, where she has this constant conflict, and he has the constant conflict on the outside world. And that's why that love can't be broken, because they're so egalitarian. And for that, we think Ovid is a feminist writer, specifically for the story.
And then just on top of that, being able to give a woman her voice, like in the next poem that we had to read with Phaedra, they talked about how love was the one writing the words so that they would speak to the heart of the person reading it, and applying that knowledge to this poem, if she's writing to appeal to Odysseus' heart, like, that's not something that a lot of women had the chance to do. They didn't have the power to do that, and that's enough to call him a feminist for that time.
Yeah, I think he's painting Ulysses pretty bad, personally. Really, without really knowing the background of what that guy's going through. I mean, she's always, you know, because he's been away at war for so long, so she's wondering now if the guy's cheating on her and everything else. Well, you know, I think what's his name, Ovid, should have pointed out too that, you know, that guy's a general. He's away in battle, and then he ends up going to jail for 5 years before he ends up coming back home. So just because he was away doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, he was cheating.
Yeah, but kind of like the fact that love kind of makes you crazy. So it kind of gives, this letter kind of gives like a voice to the women saying, well, yeah, you're away and you're at war, but like I still have this love and it hurts, and that's why I'm writing this.
Okay, and the last question is, do the letters resemble typical love letters or rejection? And does he tweak the tradition of the story? And is he using humor? Is it absurd? Is it serious? And I guess the question we have, were these typical love letters?
According to the structure that we were given, this is a typical love letter. Like, we have all of the issues that they deal with, but to me, and the group kind of agreed with me, it seemed more like pleading for an answer to where he is, because he's been gone for 20 years, and 10 of them she knew for a fact that he was at war. For 5 of them, she didn't know that he was held captive. So she's like, what have you been doing for these past 10 years? And she tells him, I have all these suitors, you have people stealing your property, you left behind a son and an old man and a wife who can't do anything for herself. So it's kind of like, on top of it being a love letter, she's just begging him. She's like, where's my husband, where's my man?
And that's it.